Mike. How you feel?
What's going on with you?
Oh, right, ain't nothing much. Just sitting here watching a little television. That's all. Nothing much.
Okay. How was your day?
Oh, so far so good. Me being that retired type living. Each day is almost kind of like the other one. Sitting back and relaxing.
Okay. I feel you.
You had to work. You work today?
Yeah, I worked. I got off a little early today. I got off about 45 minutes early today.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
So I made it home. I don't know, man. I've been hearing different things in the tea leaves. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes, since we don't always chop it up in between time, I wanted to see what's going on in the boxing world. What you been on lately?
Well, I did watch a little bit of the boxing that was on over the weekend, and I found that the one fight to really be interesting. What was it? The super middleweight fight, I think it was.
And the David Morrell.
Yeah. To me, that was a good fight. Now, it wasn't good because the competitors were so evenly matched. It was a good fight because the guy that lost, he showed true determination in trying to sustain and stay true to the bout. I mean, he was far behind on points, but I guess because he was an undefeated fighter, his corner gave him every option to keep fighting. And even though he was behind, he kept fighting, and he was pretty much suffering from a lot of battle fatigue. You could see it in the fight. You could see it on his face. But he kept on fighting, man. And eventually, in that last round, he just succumbed to all, the punishment that he had sustained in the fight. But he just didn't give up until the point that his body couldn't go any further. Okay? And even though he lost that fight, he showed the type of courage that it takes to be a champion. Although he lacked the skills needed in that particular fight to beat his opponent. But in the end of the fight, another thing that we were able to see that you don't always see in a fight is the sportsmanship showed by Morrell, where he literally helped carry that guy back to his corner and made sure he was all right and took him back to the corner.
Yes.
I mean, that was sportsmanship to a different level that we don't always see when a person gets knocked out in a fight.
Right.
But yeah, man, that was an impressive fight for Morrell, but it just shows, the courage that some fighters have in not giving up. And what he showed is what's described in many cases as that pit bull mentality. Even though he was losing, he wouldn't stop.
Yeah, and it's been stories coming out saying that he was recently placed in a medically induced coma. So I'm sending positive vibes out to him because it was one of those things where I got that shirt that says "What would Breland do?" and I question, when you get, because I look at the big picture and I look at people who get hit in the head for a living, like as their way or their means of living, especially when you get up to a level where you're getting a title shot. I mean, at some point, I was thinking, what would Breland do? Because he was so far behind on the scorecards, and he had sustained so much punishment. I don't think that it's up to the fighter to ever quit. I say this all the time, and I think sometimes people get it misconstrued what I'm really saying. I don't leave it up to the fighter. The fighter should never quit. They should always show what the boss showed. I'm gonna call him the boss. They should show what the boss showed in that pit bull, dogmatic. It's nothing you can do to get me out of there. But I think at some point, your corner has to say, okay, can we win this fight on points? Absolutely not. Now, in order for this guy to get a knockout, will he open himself up because he hasn't been able to do it? He hasn't been able to figure it out. He's taking some brutal punishment. Like, do we let this fight go on? And I think you know, in my opinion, man, they kind of let it go on too long. I was saying, and they even said it afterwards. They said they should have stopped it. You know, they should have stopped it. They should have stopped it sooner, man. And that's just a lesson to the corners, man. Like if the fighter is just that far behind on points, it's clear that he need a one-hitter quitter. But if he take any more blows to the head or any kind of more trauma to the head, neck, chin area, his nose was already bleeding like profusely, would not stop. It's like, I think you owe it to the fighter and everybody else, because the fighter shouldn't quit. But I believe that I believe his corner should have threw that in, you know. I mean, so he could live to fight another day. I hope that he gets well and he recovers, you know. But Morrell, I have been on to that man for a while, and that's the guy that's why I get on the David Benavidez all the time, because that's the guy. That guy been calling on David Benavidez for a minute, and David Benavidez never mentions his name. He never says anything about this guy. So I was impressed. I already knew. I saw him against Alantez Fox, the other guy from the DMV, the brother of Michael Fox. I saw what he was able to do against Alantez Fox, and he just dismantled him and broke him down and just showed out. And that dude is a freak, man. He a freak, man. I mean, that dude, he hasn't come out of nowhere. He's been there. Just people have been, you know, believing other sides and everything, you know. But what do you think about his upside?
What I think about his ability?
His upside, like, yeah, his you know, his potential. Like, where you like, how do you see it? Because he got a title. He got a belt.
Listen, I was impressed with the way he sustained that fight and the way he paced himself throughout the course of that fight. He showed that he can go into the championship rounds and still have what it takes to stop his opponent. I was really impressed with him, and by me seeing him only for the first time and not really having any, you know, insight on what he was capable of doing, what he was able to do against his opponent, which also was, you know, was an undefeated fighter. It to me, he showed good skills, and I think he's well deserving of the title that he now, you know, that the title that he owns. The only thing is, what marketable opponents will he be able to fight to enhance the purse strings that this guy is well capable of getting?
Well,
you know.
Well,
so I agree with you in saying that this guy, his skills are good, and it's time for him to be called out by somebody who's at the upper echelons of that weight class, because it's time for, you know, the best to fight the best. That's what we as boxing fans want. We want to see the good bouts.
Right. And you know, my man, he get on this point a lot lately. Since we've been talking, and he said he's gonna have to lighten up on him, man. Cause I was saying, man, the dude is serious, but he always be joking about how, you know, he's a Cuban fighter and they have him fighting in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So I think one of the things is, I think that he's established himself up there in the Armory. Cause he had that crowd. That's his crowd. That's it. He lives there. So I think he built that up. Now we need to see if that crowd can travel, because if you get him along the lines in Vegas with somebody with a decent name, Vegas or possibly LA, maybe. Maybe get him up there, since he liked the cold weather. Get him up there in the Garden. Let the people in the Garden up there in New York. But it's time to move him around. It's time for the world to see David Morrell.
You know what? After watching him, I have to agree with you, because he is definitely a talent, and having a title, that within itself has to give some sort of credibility to his skill as a fighter. Because, once you ascertain a belt, your credibility should be established. The only thing you can do after ascertaining a belt is just to build your legacy even more off of that with, defending your belt. And let's see who wants to try to take that belt from him, or who wants to try to unify, within that division, because he's well capable of being a viable opponent. As far as what I see, I think he's a viable opponent for anybody out there. But, in many cases, the best fights aren't made because, for whatever reason, it may not be marketable for those, that handle the purse string. So hopefully this guy at some point will be marketable and get an opportunity, to be on the big stage, not just a stage where he's the only star in the ring. Maybe he can, be matched with another star, and we could really see a good performance out of him.
Yeah, maybe that's some homework then. Maybe I gotta go and do my homework, and I gotta look at who's in line and who's up next, and a possible unification situation for him. And I just think, really, this he need a notable name. And I think he's gonna do well. He's gonna do well. Did you see was that the only bout you saw, or did you see the one before that?
I watched the Bivol fight, and in that particular fight, Bivol cruised to a comfortable win. Now, his opponent could fight, but he lacked the ring generalship to be able to beat Bivol at this particular point. I mean, he was courageous, but he was just behind. Now, he was not taking a beating, but he was losing comfortably on rounds. That he was in a situation too where the only way he could win was by knockout. However, in this particular fight, he hadn't sustained the type of beating that would make your corner say, okay, we got to stop this,
Yeah, it wasn't like that.
He fought courageous, so, he deserved the opportunity to end that fight on his feet. And, just give him an applaud for being able to go the distance with a champion, so, he fought courageously, but he didn't have the skills to beat Bivol through the course of a 12-round fight.
Yeah, I believe that it was really a mismatch, but it was an unknown, because Zerto was, he had 44 fights, he was undefeated, he had like 30 knockouts. He had been, rumored to have been chasing around Canelo all this time, and people was, he garnered a lot of that praise for, calling Canelo out. So You know, they came out with some other statistics about the guy. You know, he is a notable guy. You know, I was saying, man, unless it's power in his gloves or something leading up into the fight, unless it's power in the gloves, I on my man show, I said, man, I can't, I'm not gonna bet against Mr. Big Fundamentals. You know, in this fight, Dimitri Bivol showed me something. As every round went by, he showed me something different, man. That dude is one of the most complete fighters out there. I mean, for him to be that size, you know, for him to understand who he is, you know he's cerebral because he communicates very well. He let it be known after that fight, like, look, man, if push come to shove, maybe, yeah, Canelo, but he basically saying, nah, I fight up here. This is my stage. This is my weight class. I'm trying to unify. You know what I'm saying? If it's not about unifying, then, he's like, I'm going to think about it. I'm going to wait and see what's going on, and I want to unify with Beterbiev. You know, so I want to see that fight. But I was with the footwork, his mechanics, his sustained aggression, his like the way he's a level head. I did a little segment on him called the Matador, because that's what I look at him now. I look at him like a matador. He can tame that bull. And a lot of people were saying Beterbiev, you know, was gonna, you know, destroy him and this and this. And I was like, nah, I actually saw Beterbiev getting outboxed in his last fight, and Buddy he had the skill to do it. He just didn't have the fundamentals. He wasn't stubborn in his fundamentals to really get the job done, because he actually really rocked Beterbiev, but he wasn't built. He wasn't hard built. This guy is shorter than I think he might be a little bigger, but he's shorter. And Bivol was he's a technician. They was calling him the tactician, but he's just technically sound. It's one of them things where you don't do everything exceptionally, like, you know, it's just you do everything like really well. You know what I'm saying? And you don't really make that many mistakes. And I think he's a tough out. I got him, even though I don't have an official list, he's definitely on the pound for pound. He's definitely on the pound for pound, man. I like that mindset. That's that champion mindset that you always like talking about, because he wants to unify. He's like, look, could I take a rematch? Would I go down? My dream and my desire is to be undisputed, and nobody really want to respect that. Everybody keep trying to put him up against Bivol, or put that man up against who he say he want. He want undisputed. That's what everybody should be saying. The same way they got behind Canelo, the same way they got behind Devin. They didn't really do it. They're not doing it with Earl, but these guys want to be unified, and everybody like want to talk about everything else but their unification. Ain't that something?
Yeah, but yeah, Bivol, he's daring to be great, and that's what he wants, you know. So, you know, I take my hat off to any fighter that's trying to look upward. You know what I mean? Instead of some of those fighters that's just trying to level off. You know what I mean? They reach the plateau and figure, okay, this is it. I've done it. You know, but for those fighters that's constantly looking upward, you know, you got to give them some sort of praise, because you know they daring to be better, you know, and they want to leave their legacy to the point that there are no questions asked about this person's ability. Did they duck this person? Why didn't they fight this person? And he's trying to eliminate all of that, and he wants to move to the top. So, you know, I can't but admire, you know, the enthusiasm that he have, and I wish him well, and I hope he gets every opportunity to fight those people that he feel will give him the credibility and give him the right to be called the best at his weight class. And you know, so I just wish the best for him.